Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome to Pro Cycling Manager 2023. This is a pre-release first look. I'm going to be splitting this pre-release first look into a few different components because, well, first off, I have a limited time to show off the game to you, so I'm going to try to make the best of that time. So we're going to try to quickly get into this, but for this first component of it, we're going to go over the new features in PCM 23. All of the regular game modes are back, of course, and in the same variation at how they were before. Let's begin by looking at the new career mode features. The first new feature is a change in the attributes, first time in quite some time, and this is the addition of medium mountain. Now, of course, medium mountain just falls in between mountain and hills ratings, as I think it should be obvious on that part. But it is actually a little more complicated than what I first thought when it was originally announced. So first off, most riders are going to see something in terms of an average rating in between what they have for their mountain and their hills ratings. But that's not the case entirely. There are going to be exceptions. There are going to be ones that are very much more punchy but not very good climbers, and therefore their medium mountain rating would be a bit closer to what their mountain rating is. There's going to be riders that are pretty solid climbers but just don't have that acceleration piece for the hills, and therefore actually could still have a pretty good mountain rating as well. Now, the way the system used to work, 85 effort was mountain rating, 95 effort was hills rating, and then that entire 10-point range in between was a transition period where, depending on how close to 85 or 95 you were using more of one attribute than the other. That system remains in place. I don't know what the exact number is that it falls under, but one could assume that medium mountain would be a 90 effort, and the transition would then be a much smaller one. As you go from 85 to 90, you're transitioning from mountain to medium mountain. As you're going from 90 to 95, you're transitioning from their medium mountain rating to their hills rating. The ranking system has seen a total overhaul. Instead of the old system where we had World Tour, Continental, and then Super Prestige rankings, we now have a singular universal ranking. Of course, if you're in World Tour, you're going to be earning more points for those major races, where a Continental rider is going to be getting a much smaller points haul, similar to how the Super Prestige worked. But the big difference here is that rankings are updated weekly now, and one thing in particular that's different is that the individual ranking is a carryover from last year. And I love that you can hover over this and get a breakdown of what those points have been provided by. But as the Tour de France is repeated this year, last year's Tour de France scores are wiped away, so they hold for 1 year. The nation rankings are also a accumulation of the individual rankings, and not the team rankings, of course. It's the individuals that have acquired those points. And so that one also holds as a rolling yearly haul. The team ranking still transpires in the same way that it used to, which is it is done through the calendar year. So every January it's reset to 0, and the teams accumulate their points throughout the year. Another neat portion about this is you can now break it down by region for those individual rankings. So for example, you can go to the Americas and see that Sergio Higuita is as a Colombian, is the top Americas score with just shy of 2,000 points. The World Championships, which made their debut recently, are back again this year, but there is one change with the World Championships. There is now going to be a uniform decision in which championships you go to. Last year, if you were to go to the individual time trial in, say, Poland, the road race very easily could wind up being in France. Now, there's going to be a voting system with the selection process for what you're going to get out of the World Championships, and it will now be universal. If it's in Norway, both the individual time trial and the road race will be in Norway. In race simulations, we've now seen a revamping of sprints. The AI behavior should be more fluid and better, but we'll get a look at that when we actually get into gameplay, so I'll leave the verdict on that one until we see one of the other videos. Another change on the simulation side of things, and this is one that I'm really interested in seeing how it works, and how useful it will be. In the past, a sprinter is a perfect example, actually. A sprinter with weak climbing ability, such as Koish, they would get dropped on a mountain stage early on, and then they would be in ones and twos or sixes, small groups spread out all over the place, and then struggling to climb. And because of their low recovery, as a Grand Tour would wear on, they would get weaker and weaker and weaker as the race continues. This year, we've seen an update in a specific mechanic about race simulations regarding gruppettos, which is a group forming off the back of the peloton and just making their way through a mountain stage and trying to make it within a time cut and trying to conserve energy. Well, now they actually do conserve some energy. So there's been a revamp to that specific group in particular, a gruppetto, where they will come out of it a bit better. So that recovery won't be as important. It's going to help them with the time management of making it to those time cuts. So we should start to see larger groups forming off the back, and we should start to see those groups in particular conserving some energy. So if you are competing for something like a King of the Mountains classification, so you actually are a pretty decent climber, you're not one of those top GC favorites, you just are a pretty decent climber, some days you're going to need to rest and recover a bit. So getting into the gruppetto early and just getting through the stage is a great way to restore some energy for stages to come, so that you can get after it once again and go get those King of the Mountains points. Next up, we're going to take a look at Pro Cyclist mode and some big changes in Pro Cyclist mode this year. Pro Cyclist mode hadn't seen much different about it the last few years. This is the year that it's been given a pretty healthy amount of attention, and we've seen quite a few changes in here, beginning with the entire system surrounding your fitness, your preparation, your fatigue, your development over the course of a season, including your preseason entrance, where you can begin prepared at around an 85 to 90%, but you're going to come with fatigue already from that hard off-season training in December. But if you wait till January to get that going, your preparation is going to come in a bit lower, but then you're going to come without the fatigue side of things. So in Pro Cyclist mode, we're now given a much more hands-on experience when it comes to our training and preparation over the course of the season. We have A targets, we have B targets. So you have your major objectives, you have minor objectives. It looks like there are going to be some of those skills. That skill system is still in place, but it looks like we've seen some variation of what those skills might include. How you trigger your fitness peak, or how many objectives you have available to you, is now dependent on that skill level. It looks like starting out, we're going to begin with 3 available A targets for a year. If you're going to try to target all 3 Grand Tours, that's all you get. Beyond that, you're going to have to use B targets, which are going to come with less fitness, which means you're not going to see as big of a bonus. Also, beyond those A target, B targets, you can see we have specific preparation, which puts us at 85 to 90%. We have general preparation, which is going to put us at 75 to 85%. And I'm sure that rest is going to be used to decrease fatigue, but it also means you're going to start seeing what I would assume is a sharp decline in your fitness level. You can see, having picked the 80 to 85 and the 5%, you can see after a few days into the year, we are currently at 82% with 4% fatigue. And then you kind of have your follow-up week by week to see how it's going. But here we have our preparation and fitness both at 82%. We have that fatigue that's already fallen by 1% from the turn of last week into this week. And then we have our calendar with the upcoming races that we have, where you're going to then try to assign those specific targets. So for example, if we decide that we want to target the USA Championships as a primary, we can set ourselves up nicely for that one. But then you're also seeing that, oh, wait, there is that rest period. Do we want to rest for the Sola de Rite? Sure, why not? But then you can see how that's going to impact your training structure throughout the year. Brand new look here, but this is a fantastic setup. I'm really excited to see how this is going to all translate. So you can see that specific preparation is in the build-up phase to those targets. If you were to assign a B target, you're going to have a similar window on how that all kind of operates throughout the year. And that's already kind of filling in gaps. So you can back-to-back A targets, or you could set up A targets here, but there has to be a rest, there has to be a build, there has to be preparation for the year to come. And we can't put an A target at the very beginning of the year, but I bet you we could squeeze in a B target a little bit earlier. A little bit, but not a lot. So putting those back-to-back will give you a longer stretch where you are at a good fitness level. In addition to that big general look at things, we also have weekly breakdowns. And for the weekly breakdowns, we can actually do additional things that I'm assuming, again, some of these boxes are going to be unlocked in your skills section. But we have a tour that we can put a little focus into and get little bonuses going for something along the way. Interesting setup that you have here. Also, I'm seeing that there's going to be more unlocked. Behind the face cam, there's a few grayed out circles in addition to the couple that you see here. There's 7 in its entirety across there that you can utilize these. And how often you can utilize those? Looks like they are something that will fall in again and again. There's also variation. For this week that we have a B target, there's only a single, as you can see, this one is grayed out behind the face cam there. There's only a single available target for us, as we do have a target B that particular week. So there is variation to this. It's definitely something that's going to take a little getting used to, but I'm loving that we have so much additional control here in how you build up your fitness and what that's going to do for your rider over the course of the season. How exactly it's going to work, I do not know, but contained somewhere within this system, development of your rider is now going to be dependent on the actions that you are taking here within this screen. It's not just about the racing now. The training part is going to be part of how your rider progresses from level to level. Likewise, the progression system itself has seen a revamp, but until I get into the racing and play, I won't know too many more details regarding how that revamp has restructured the system. But speaking of restructured systems, and this one gives me the strong impression that the couple of videos that I put out last year, not long after PCM 22 came out, where I had my set of proposals of what I would like to see introduced in PCM 23, and then I had a follow-up video with community requests for changes to the PCM 23 title. Some of these very specific things that I put into those videos have found their way into PCM 23, which is awesome. Whether I had anything to do with that, I don't know, but I think it's great to see these changes. And one of the changes that we've seen here in Pro Cyclist mode is a dynamic system adapting to unforeseen events, meaning whatever your objective was going into a race, it can change. It's dynamic. If the race situation changes, your objective can vary. And I absolutely love that feature. The game desperately needed to have that in its Pro Cyclist mode. It's a subtle change, but one of the things I've noticed is that Pro Cyclist mode has now adopted the career mode UX UI system throughout, as it still had the old system up through last year. So now we have a proper matrix where you can see just how good my Pro Cyclist could be as a world-class Tour de France type winner. That is going to do it for this new features video though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. There are more videos coming with specific gameplay elements revealed within those. And then of course, Pro Cycling Manager 2023 is set to come out on June the 8th. So look for it. It'll be available where all the games are found, of course, Steam and other places as well. Have a good one, be safe out there, and bye for now.